Dr. Carl, Medical Delegate for V8 Supercars, thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to know, what exactly is your role at a V8 Supercar track?
Sure, well I guess there are three parts to my role. The first and the main reason for my existence is to sit in what's called the V8 medical car at pit exit and to be available there to respond to any on-track incidents. The second part of my role is sort of a regulatory role in terms of standardising the medical services at each of the circuits. And then the last part of my role, which is probably the bit that keeps me busiest, is being kind of a GP for the paddock. So there are about 800 or more people that travel with the V8 supercars, and they inevitably get sick or injured, injuries and such, or need to perform. Some of the drivers as well get injuries in between events. So my role is to make sure everyone's working or performing at their best.
How did you get involved in V8 Supercars? How does a doctor get into motorsport?
Short version of the story is that I was training at the Alfred Hospital, which is the main trauma centre in Melbourne, and a mentor of mine just asked if I wanted to come to Formula One. This was back in 1997. So I just signed up and volunteered there and spent a couple of years there, and then found that I really enjoyed it. I'd always had a passion for fast things, whether it be cars or bikes. And then became what's called the Chief Medical Officer of Phillip Island Circuit. I guess it was one of those things where you follow your heart. I just kept on volunteering at events, and then even in 2004 we started a not-for-profit association to provide medical services for motorsport events. And then one of the biggest things in my career so far was to be invited to go to Singapore to set up the Singapore Formula One medical service in 2007 for their 2008 inaugural event. And in 2007 was also when I got asked by Tony Cochran and Wayne Cashach, who was the CEO at the time, to come up to Surfers and be interviewed for a permanent role. I guess there'd been a couple of serious incidences in V8 supercar rounds, and they really just said, we like what you do at Phillip Island, we want you to do what Sid Watkins did for F1 and try and get our series as safe as possible.
Why is it so important for V8 Supercars to have a medical delegate that is a regular person going to every single V8 Supercar round?
In my first year, it was quite an eye-opener going to events, and I don't want to be too specific, but there are some where they only have the one event a year, so they don't really get that exposure. I mean, Australia has first-class health services, but taking specialists, doctors, nurses and paramedics out into a racetrack and expecting them to be able to pull a driver out of a car is quite a big ask. It's both dangerous for them, and we want to minimise any dangers for the drivers. So with my familiarity and I guess my expertise in motorsport, that's been part of my role.
What's your initial reaction when you see an incident on track, or when you're approaching an incident on track?
Time seems to slow down. I was reflecting, because we just came away from Barbagallo, and 4 years ago we had that huge fireball.
That's massive! Carl Reindler's launched on the grid. He was stalled on the grid and has been hit from behind.
And that incident was all over within about 11 seconds. But when you're actually in it, it seems a lot longer. So I guess my first thought, and what I try and do, is just try and simplify everything, and I just try and go back to basics, which is to go back to good old Dr. ABC, which is look at the dangers. What I try and teach is for the medical staff not to run towards the car. I mean, we need to be efficient, but you should be approaching the car looking for dangers and such, and then you assess the driver and such. But you're also looking at what type of damage has happened to the vehicle, what led up to the incident, what injuries may occur due to the actual incident.
You also completed the Ironman Melbourne earlier this year. That was triggered, your training was triggered by a health incident for yourself at a V8 Supercar event.
Yes, exactly. In November 2012, I weighed about 95 kilos and we went to Abu Dhabi for the combined Formula One and V8 event, and I had these chest pains, and it ended up that I was diagnosed with some coronary artery disease or heart disease, and I ended up having to have some stents. So I was 44 years of age at the time, and it was a huge surprise to me that that had happened. But I was very thankful that it was a wake-up call to say that you're not young anymore, you can't eat McDonald's whenever you like. And I guess the biggest flaw was that I was very sedentary. I did no exercise, not regular anyway. In January of 2013, I just started walking, and then ran 5 kilometres, which I'd never run before in my life. And then I thought, I should try and run every circuit. So in 2013, I ran every circuit that we went to. And then I entered some sprint triathlons, and I did a couple of half Ironmans, and again just came out of them thinking, I still feel all right, I'm not crumpled over or anything. And then I made the mistake, if for want of a better term, and went and watched Melbourne Ironman last year and watched the end of it and watched the age group as finished just around the midnight cut-off. And the very next morning, on the Monday morning, I went back and signed up for this year. So then that meant about 12 months of pretty serious training, a lot of selfish time to do the training. But yeah, I was very fortunate and I loved it.
Dr. Carl, you're certainly a very important part of the V8 Supercar travelling circus. I know I've used you plenty of times when I've been unwell, so I thank you very much, and thank you on behalf of everyone here for the work you do. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Rihanna.